So good morning, this is Gurula, and we are looking at the market after a huge gain yesterday, moving up off of the FOMC announcement that there would be no 0.75 basis point hike. We think the market's going to have a bit of a hangover today, just because it was somewhat of an overreaction. So we're going to be looking at opportunities initially on the downside, and looking at the VIX. The VIX is climbing, and it bounced off of a key level yesterday at the end of the market, this algorithmic support level here, and it's finding support here on the 5-day EMA on the 30-minute chart to the upside. So we got the VIX going up to about 2740 is our theory, and we're looking for puts. So Apple is a consideration. Apple has fallen a bit more than what we wanted it to, so we may have to not take that one. When it was up here, it looked attractive. Still, it could be a nice trade. And AMD. AMD is preferred because, looking at the chart for AMD on yesterday, it exceeded its weekly ATR. It met its weekly ATR, its actual true range. So that means within a week, AMD moves. Let's see what the ATR is. So it is $14.16 a week is the movement on AMD on average. And yesterday it met that when it hit 99.48, which was the top of that range. So I think AMD yesterday closed just below that at 99.42. but hit a high of 99.69. So it met its ATR, and it's hitting rejection. It's hitting this algorithmic resistance here. So we're expecting it to get rejected and to decline, even with this volume, even with this nice earnings report. So given that Apple is already moving significantly below where we wanted to buy our puts, we may look at AMD instead, but we're going to buy on the market open, which is going to be here in just a minute. Unfortunately, sometimes the platform doesn't allow that to happen, so we may have to wait to get filled, but we're going to buy the $95 puts on AMD, and that's where most of the volume is. And those are currently, see what is the current bid and ask. Well, it's not really open yet, so we don't really know. But the $95 put, and we're going to sit in this for a while. So we think the idea is to just hold on and see if we can't get. All right, so it's 93 cents. Sorry, David?
Is that May 6th?
That is May 6th expiration, yes. All right, so we're in a put on AMD. Right off the bat, and we're just gonna keep an eye on this. We're gonna mark the opening high here, and just keep our eye on the progress. We have a target of 96.01. So looking at the 30-minute chart, here's an ATR here. ATR trailing stop at 96.01. There's also a 50-day EMA, so it could find support at that level. So we're not going to be in this for very long, it doesn't look like, but we do need it to fall. We are hoping to execute this trade and be on the right side of it to get a good, and of course, if it hits this ATR trailing stop, and if it looks like the support is not going to hold, then we're going to stay in this. We're going to let the chart tell us what to do, because we've got a 200-day EMA down here at $92, and AMD on average on a daily chart moves $4.08. So If we're looking at AMD, let's see, we have a high of 97.84, so 97.84 minus 480, $4.80. So 93.04 could be a target for the day. 93.04. That's actually just above the 200-day EMA. So if we're looking at the 30-minute chart again, the 200-day EMA is at 92 and change. So that could be in range, 93.04. This target could be in range on this one trade. And we'd love to be able to take this one trade and be done for the day. If we can make our 10% in our account today off that one trade, that would be really, really sweet. So, all right, so we're in this trade. AMD is falling quickly, which is what we like to see. The VIX is climbing. So we don't have an opening low yet. Let's see what the VIX is doing. We want to make sure we keep our eye on it so we don't lose sight of. All right, so we've got some room on the VIX. 2740 is what we think it's going to, where we think it's going to go. So we want to make sure that we don't get caught. And the one thing about it, you've got the 200-day EMA coming down where this level is, this level of resistance. So that resistance should hold. All right, so going back to AMD. We are close to that 50-day EMA on a 30-minute chart. So we're going to watch this and see what happens. Here, we need to break this 50-day EMA support. And given the fact that we have the 5-day coming down across the 20, we're expecting this to continue to the downside, and eventually the 5-day could cross this 50-day EMA. That would be extremely bearish, and that would then accelerate our move to the downside, but we're on a 30-minute chart, so that could take a little bit of time. All right, so it looks like the 50-day EMA is not going to hold, which is good. We don't have confirmation of that yet, but so the 50-day EMA is at, let's see, I can't see here, is at 96.49, 96.49. So I'm going to mark this here, 96.49, 96.49, so I can see it on my 5-minute chart. 50-day EMA, and we're going to make it red and solid. And we're going to go to a 5-minute chart. All right, so good. So this is, again, a support level. We want to see the support level broken. Right now, it looks like it's holding, but we're not going to be deterred by that because the VIX is falling, but we see the VIX going to find support here soon. Another choice, which I was going to take, and I thought was probably even a better choice, was plug power. Plug power, and I'll show you on the chart, we could have bought in the money puts because they were cheaper. Plug power on yesterday. Also, it met its weekly ATR on yesterday, and it hit resistance as well here. So you see, now plug power has fallen, and it probably was could have been a better choice because there are probably less buyers here, and we could have bought in the money on plug power for our small account, but the ATR is higher for AMD. So for that reason, we chose AMD. Apple, again, is another choice to the downside. And for Apple, we had a target on the 30-minute chart down here of 161.98. All right, so let's see how we're doing. So that 50-day EMA is a bit troublesome. for us right now. But that's okay. We're not going to be concerned about it. We're still early. There are just folk who are stepping in, buying this, but we're looking at the VIX, and it looks like the VIX is going to continue climbing. It's going to bounce here. We are projecting, or we are suggesting it's going to bounce here off of this support level, or certainly one of these. There's a lot of support here, the 5-day EMA. We also have the 50, the 20, and then the ATR trailing stop. So we're looking at the VIX finding support and then continuing its move to the upside. If we're on a 30-minute chart on the VIX, it hit this resistance and looks like it's getting rejected briefly, but again, we think that's going to continue with its upside move because, of course, there's going to be profit taking this morning. So going back to AMD, I'm just going to watch this here. We're going to see if this is going to be the opening low. So 932. We're going to mark that as our opening low. We're up 20% on our trade, but we're going to try to take advantage of this one trade and try to stay in it, because our conviction again is to the downside. So if this candle closes here inside, then this will be an opportunity to talk about how the strat works. This low is 96.32. So this is a double bottom here. $96.32 here, $96.32 here on the bottom. So we have a double bottom. And of course, if it breaks to the downside, then we'll be very confident in our move. We've got to break this 50-day EMA, but again, we're looking at a strong move to the downside here. And of course, we're going to be looking next at 96.01, which is our ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute. If we break that, then I don't really see a whole lot of support. Let's go to a 1-hour chart. The next level of support is at 93.66. So I'm going to mark this 93.66 because we had talked about maybe letting this run. This is the ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour. We're going to make it blue so we know that it's a support level versus purple, which is resistance. And then if we go to a 4-hour chart, then we are all the way down here at 88.94. We're not going to swing this just because, again, we are intraday traders. All right, so patience on the trade. Any questions, Dave, about why we chose this direction and this decision and this particular stock?
No, it looks good to me.
So it looks like we're going to break this 50-day EMA here on the 30-minute chart, which is what we want to do. Next, we want to break the opening low.
I think people want to, is how important is the VWAP?
Well, let's take a look. I'm going to add it and load the VWAP as my indicator. All right, so I didn't do that. I loaded device volume point of control. So let me just see here. Load study set. Load the VWAP, and I'm going to get rid of this volume point of control here. All right, so the VWAP, I think, is important because volume, VWAP, volume weighted average price. So as long as you are below the VWAP, which is this purple line, the blue line is my 5-day EMA, which I added. And I don't have the boundary lines. I don't use the boundary lines on my VWAP setting. As long as you are below the VWAP, then the stock is considered to be bullish. I'm sorry, bearish. If you are above the VWAP, then it's considered to be bullish. So right now it's bearish. And this VWAP, this volume weighted average price, is also resistance and significant resistance. So this is the average price that was paid by, paid for the stock. And when this 5-day EMA crosses the VWAP, that is extremely bullish or bearish, and depending upon which direction you're trading. And you see when it crossed, you see this candle sort of accelerated to the downside. So when trading, and we're in a position here, if we're looking at a reversal and we see, for example, AMD was to reverse to the upside, it would still be bearish until it crossed and closed above the VWAP. And for confidence, we'd want to see the 5-day EMA cross the VWAP to the upside as a signal that now it's safe to enter to the upside. So I think the VWAP is fairly significant. If that's the only indicator you want to use, it's I think it's very good.
Look what happened when that 5-day crossed below it.
Yes. A lot of people use the VWAP, and many will use either the 8-day EMA or the 9-day EMA. I like the 5 because it's just faster.
Right. Yeah, cool. I love that.
So now we are below the ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute chart. So that's now, I'm going to put this, and again, I like to use my ATR and other indicators more so than I use them all. So I'm looking at another chart that I have that you can't see, and I have the VWAP up on that chart. So I'm watching the VWAP and I'm watching my ATR trailing stop indicators and other indicators as well. So let's go to a 30-minute chart, and we see now we've broken this support level. So we still have 15 minutes for it to close below. Not quite at 10% today. My account is up 7%, my total account. I'm trying to reach 10% on this one trade. Now, the thing about this trade is within the first hour, or at least until about 10:15, you get the biggest return. If you're in a trade longer than 10:15, then at that point, theta starts to become a factor. And even though the price may continue to move down, if it doesn't move down dramatically, then you're not going to get the benefit from the move that you would in the first hour of the market being open. So I want to try and be out of this trade by 10:15. And at that point, wait to look for something moving in the opposite direction, or just wait. Now I could swing this, and we saw on the daily chart here that we expected this move. There's going to be support also on the 20-day EMA at 94.89, so that's about $1 to the downside. So 94.89, let's see where that is on our chart. 94.89. Go to a 30-minute chart. 94.89 is, well, it looks like we are closely approaching that. 94.89, well, that's about right here. So this is where the 20-day EMA is. So AMD could find support here. but we're going to be out well before that, because at that point we will have reached our target on this trade. All right, so the VIX is still climbing, and it's heading towards this 2740. Again, if we looking at the 5-day EMA coming down, I'm sorry, the 200-day, which is this white line, and this ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute, that signals to me very strong resistance. So when the VIX gets to this 2740, I'm going to definitely look to be out of my trade to the downside. And then I would be looking for opportunities to the upside. Now, it may not get there because it's just, again, it's a repellent. So it could be that before it gets there, it sort of reverses. But we're anticipating that it will, because you can see it on multiple time frames. And let's just take a look at the 4-hour. So it could climb here, hit this level, and then fall back below this 5-day EMA on the 4-hour chart. All right, so let's go back to our trade. All right, so we are okay for the moment. We just need AMD to continue moving down. We need some more velocity here. So we need it to break this ATR trailing stop, which is on the 30-minute. We still have just about 8 minutes to go before the 30-minute candle closes, but we want it to close below. So now the opening low has become resistance. So we mark this here as the opening high, mark this as the opening low. Once it fell through this opening low, which was really support at the moment, or at that time, then it became resistance. So we see here it's getting rejected here off the opening low. One of the things I try to do is to mark support and resistance on every time frame, and I use those for decision making. That plug power trade, I should always go with my first decision. That was a nice trade to the downside. Given the fact that they don't make any money, that would have just made logical sense. All right, so Apple. So again, and looking at Ford was another choice to the downside. So going back to AMD. All right, so that opening low as resistance held, and we're continuing our move down. And we still want to stay below the 5-day EMA. And this is the 50-day EMA on which time frame is that? Let me just check to make sure. Because I didn't mark it on my chart, and I should do that. All right, it's on the 30-minute chart. This is always helpful to know. All right, so we're looking for the next leg down now on AMD. It should get rejected here, and it should move down. If it does find support, we may have to take our smaller profit, but we want to make sure we protect our account. But we do have an ATR trailing stop resistance here at 97. So we got in at a decent price, and we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hour. So we need another move down on AMD so we can look at the opportunity to either take our profit or get some confirmation that it's going to continue to the downside. We do believe that's going to be the case for this morning until about 11 or so. It seems to be that the market around 11 o'clock or 11:30 tends to change direction. If it's moving down, it tends to change direction, starts to move up, and vice versa. So we're just going to watch. And again, we need some confidence in this move. So it looks like it's getting rejected off the 5-day EMA. And it's important to use your technicals and let them help you make decisions. Yesterday, I got out of a SPY trade to the upside way too early because I had already set my target for the price. I wanted my gains to actually take profit, and it moved so quickly I was unable to get out of to cancel my open order before it executed, and I left about $3,000 on the table. And for a small account, when you're starting with $600 and change, to make $3,000, that's not a bad day. So again, we are trying to make 10% each day in our account on average. And if we're able to do that, then every 7.2 days, our account will double. And if we're successful and we're disciplined, then in 4 months, a $500 account will be worth $1.5 million. So again, that's the ideal. If we can get anywhere close to that, I would be extremely happy. But we're trying to be, again, transparent with our trading. We're trying to demonstrate a technique and a method that works. And we're trying to help traders understand the importance of discipline. Discipline and patience. Those two things are critical if you're going to be a successful trader. According to all the information I've read, 80 to 90% of traders lose money. At Gurula, we don't want that to happen, and we don't want you to be one of them. So again, we're looking at AMD. AMD is below the 50-day EMA on the 30-minute chart. It's below the opening low. It's below the 5-day EMA. So all of that serves as resistance. Now we need it to fall below the ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute chart, which is this blue line. And we have about, 3 minutes. Actually, is that right? We have 5 minutes before the 30-minute candle closes. When that candle closes, we want it to be below here, or at least if it closes on it, we want the next candles to open and break below. So this could be an inverted hammer at the bottom of a move. So we're going to watch here carefully. And we're going to see if this move continues, which is what we want. All right, so the VIX, let's take a check and see what's happening. All right, the VIX is approaching this 2740, so we need to make sure we keep our eye on that. We don't want to get caught. All right, so our total account value now is at 7.6%. All right, we're getting some acceleration to the downside. And we've got the VIX again moving close to this area here. So we're going to be watching carefully, and we're going to try and see if we can't take profit here soon. We may not get to our 10%, but we want to make sure we protect our profit. So I'm watching the VIX on another screen, and once it starts to approach that ATR trailing stop. And the other thing too, looks like the SPY is approaching support. So let's go to a 30-minute chart here. So this is support level on the SPY. So the SPY could likely bounce here. And if it does, it will probably take AMD with it. So let's take a look here. And I don't like the weakness. On the next move down, provided we can get a nice move down, I'm going to take profit on AMD. Not going to risk my capital. Again, this inverted hammer also gives me a pause for concern. And we can always get back in if we need to. So I'm going to see if I can sell this at the asking price. Let's see what the high is for the day on this. So the high for the day is 157 on this option. I'm going to actually see if I can't sell this on the ask at one. Well, you know, I'm going to just wait and see if I can't get this price. Just be patient. I'm going to switch to a 2-minute chart. Give me a little bit more advanced knowledge. All right, so we've got the spinning top here, which signals a continuing move to the downside. Looking at the SPY is really close to the support level at 420.64. Doesn't mean it's going to hold, but it just means that we're introducing an element of risk into our trade, that it could bounce at that level. And given the fact that we've done so well so far, we don't want to give up what we've gained, but we want to maximize our profit. So it looks like the downside move is slowing down. I use a 5-minute chart to enter trades, and on occasion we'll use a 2-minute chart to exit. So looking at the VIX, it looks like the VIX is going to find support here and continue to the upside. All right, AMD, there we go. Good. This is what we want to see. Still, there's a struggle happening here. So I'm going to be patient. And I've got some baked in profit. So worst case scenario, I only make 6% of my account. Currently I'm at 8.7. All right, good. We're getting a good. This is what we want to see here. Nice move. All right, so the high for this now is 165. And looking at the VIX, we are heading towards that 2740, so we're good. We're not quite there yet. We've got a little more room to go. I'm at 9.4% gain for my total account for the day. $9.8. We're now approaching that ATR on the VIX. I'm going to put in my sell order here at 170, which is the ask. Actually, now it's, oh, this is really nice. So you know what? I'm going to be a little greedy. All right, so I'm at 10.7% on my account. I'm going to close this. All right, so I just closed out my trade, and I recognize there may be some downside still left, but my total account value, if you can see it here, is $801.35. My total gain for the day in my account is 10.9%. And look at that, it's still falling. But again, I am satisfied with that trade. We were only in it for, let's see, it's currently 10:02. We're in it for about 30 minutes. And we've just taken our profit. And at this point now, our account is up 10%. So we can be patient and do whatever we want. We can be certainly strategic in our next trade. So I think that there's more downside left to AMD. And we're looking at the VIX. The VIX is about to hit this 2740. Now, what we could have done, given that we had such a substantial gain, we could have tested this to see if the VIX would break it. And we could have tried to stay in this trade on AMD to see how far it's going to fall, because right now it looks like it's going to continue all the way down to 93.66. But again, as David says, and I certainly appreciate base hits. It's nice if you can get a home run, but we want to take risk off the table, and we can always enter into another trade. So we risk on that trade. I'll just tell you, we only paid 95 cents. So we risked $95 of our starting account. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to open my spreadsheet, and I'm going to put this trade into the journal. And we're just going to show you how we use this journal. And we're not going to even think about what's happening in the market right now. We've got some things on our list that we're watching. So let me find this application.
Rich, did you say your account's 830 starting at 500?
Yes. So yes. So not today starting at 500. Today, so let me see here what the account was today.
No, I just mean you started with 500 last week. It's now 830.
Correct. So yes, today we started with $722 as our available trading balance. And on that one trade, we made 10.89%. So we made $79, $78 and change. So I'm going to enter here. This is day 6. And we traded AMD. And today is 5.5. And the SPY has fallen through, by the way. And the VIX has shot through that ATR trailing stop on the 30-minute to the upside. So we could have stayed a little bit longer, but again, greed kills, to be quite honest. So this would expire, this put would expire tomorrow, 5/6/22. There's a put, and it was naked. I'm going to put the stock price in later. The strike price was $95. We paid 95 cents. We bought one contract, and we sold that contract for $1.75. It's now at $2 and change, by the way. $1.75. Oh, that's the fee. Sorry. So the fee was $1.30. Sold it for $1.75. All right, so this gives us our gain here of $78. So now if we go to our spreadsheet, and this is day, today is the 4th, today is the 5th. I didn't put my number of trades in yesterday. So we started with an opening account balance. I got that wrong. An opening account balance of 692. Oh, sorry. Let me just put this in here. So I want to put my profit and loss from my ledger. Okay. So here we go. So our account balance currently is 801. It shows 32, so it may be that there's a rounding error here. But our total gain today was 10.88. Our opening account balance is 722. We made one trade here. On yesterday, we made 1, 2, 3, 4 trades. Let me add that so it's updated. So David, our cumulative return now through 6 days is 60% gain on our account. So we started with $500 change, and we're now at $722 after 6 days. And we still have available, and let me close this and get it out of the way. And we still have available to us $626 we can use to trade today. Now we got out of AMD, I don't know, somewhere right around here. So we could look to buy back in once it climbs and gets rejected. But we're not likely to trade AMD anymore today. But we have $626 that we can use to trade. So it's quite possible today that we could continue to increase our gains and really make a nice, strong move today. So looking at Apple, I want to buy Apple to the upside. And looking at Apple, I think this is where I would buy it based on what I'm seeing. It's hitting this support level here. So I'm going to look at an Apple call, and this is something I would consider holding. So 79 has a lot of open interest at the 170. Oh, that's May 20. That's too long. I need today's expiration. A lot of open interest at the 170. That's only 5 cents. So I can afford better than that. I'm going to do the 165 call for Apple. But I'm going to wait for some confirmation here. So 165 call, and I'm going to buy 2 of those. But I'm looking at Apple. I'm watching the VIX. And let's see where the VIX is headed. All right, so the VIX is hitting resistance here. This is a good sign. I'm looking for it to get rejected at this level. So this might be the time to buy Apple. Let me just go back to my chart. I want to make sure that Apple is not continuing to the downside. So as long as it is moving sideways, gives me an indication it found the bottom. I'm good with that. It's getting rejected here on the 5-day EMA. So I'm not ready yet to make a decision to enter. But if I see the VIX fall on my other chart, then I'm going to make my entry. So this hammer at the bottom of this move is bullish for Apple, but we want to get the best price. And we know that people love Apple, even in spite of what's happening with the unionization of some of their stores. So Apple again is bouncing off the 200-day on the 30-minute chart. It is bouncing off the ATR trailing stop on the 1-hour chart. And it's bouncing off the 20-day. It could be on the 4-hour. So again, Apple looks like a good trade to the upside, but we want to get the right price. And instead of buying 2, we don't have to risk that kind of capital. And maybe let's see here, see if there's something a little closer to in the money. So the 160 is in the money. We have the funds, so we could look at a 160 call on Apple. Ordinarily, I wouldn't risk that kind of capital. Normally it's 20% of my total account value. So what is 20% of 800, which is my account right now? That's $160. So that's a bit more than we want to risk. So let's just go with the 162. Well, we'll go what we originally said, the 165. That's $40-something and change. So looking at the 165 call on Apple, current price is 44 cents. Instead of buying, well, maybe we will buy, we're just going to buy 1. And when we buy that 1, we're just going to sit in it and see if it will give us a nice profit for the day. And then maybe we'll buy again after around 11 or 11:30. And after that, then sometime in the afternoon, maybe then the power hour. But I like the way Apple looks on support. And I'm looking at my other charts and it really looks appealing. So I'm going to buy 2 of these when I buy, because I think this is going to be the right entry. So right now, Apple is sitting on top of its 200-day EMA on the 30-minute, on top of the ATR trailing stop on the 1-hour, and the SPY is giving us a bullish hammer. So this is SPY here. All right, so looking at the VIX is getting rejected. I'll just show you quickly. And it's bouncing off of the 20-day. So again, looking at Apple, looking for the right opportunity. We don't want to catch a falling knife. This 160.62, as long as Apple doesn't make a new low, then we believe this to be the bottom. But again, you've got this hammer, which is bullish. So this signals that Apple is going to reverse. The fact that it's green even more so versus red. Red could be a continuation, but this says reversal. But we want to make sure Apple doesn't fall below 160.62. If it makes a new low, then we're just going to have to wait again for another signal. So that again, the 200-day EMA is at 160.88. I'm going to mark mark this 160.88. I'm on my other chart and I'm simply drawing a line. I want to use the ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour. That's probably a better indicator. All right, so ATR trailing stop is at 160.69. ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour. It supports, so we're going to make it blue. And you'll see it in just a minute. All right, so there it is. All right, so this is where the support is for Apple on the 1 hour. This is the ATR trailing stop, which we consider to be extremely strong support. And we are expecting Apple to turn right around here. Don't want to be too early. So we need confirmation. And you can see the struggle here between the bulls and the bears. So we've got a higher low here. We want to see if we're going to get another higher low. And then we're going to have to watch carefully to make sure that it doesn't get rejected by the 5-day EMA. What we want to see are two candles that close above the 5-day EMA. They can be green or red. We prefer them to be green. That would be our signal for an entry. Because right now, this is still a falling knife. This is not unexpected. Again, the market, I think, has a hangover. I also like Take Two. Take Two bought Zynga, and I like them as an entity to the upside, but it's below its 5-day EMA, so that's not a good trade, unfortunately. Facebook could be a trade to the downside. So looking at Apple, Apple's below its 5-day EMA, but we think that's going to hold that support. All right, so looks like we're turning the corner. Looks like we're bottoming out here at this 160.62. Just have to be careful not to enter too early and then have it continue to the downside, because then we just are going to give back the profit that we made in our account. So we have about 10 minutes before we wrap up our morning here at Gurula. We will continue trading throughout the day and live with Dr. A and friends on Clubhouse. I would like to make this trade before then, but not going to be, don't want to make any bad decisions. So we have a new low. So Apple hasn't finished its downside move yet. And let's see, are we getting support here on the VIX? I still think this 20-day EMA is in play, so I'm not too concerned about that. We are going to turn here. It's just a matter of getting some kind of confirmation. is there a chance more downside for AMD? We got out in time. Looks like we could have bought off this rejection here to the downside, but I'm satisfied with AMD and done with that trade. So Dave, any thoughts, questions here about this Apple trade?
No, a lot. I mean, the risk reward is good. I think you're in a bear market, so I would look for opportunities like you did on AMD, more for the downside than upside.
All right, then I have a list. Let's just kind of take a look. There goes Apple. So Plug Power is one that I like to the downside because they don't really have any earnings. They don't really make any money. And let's see where they are right here. So their ATR is $1.09. They had a high of 23.02. They're already beyond their ATR for the day. So yeah, I'd have to do some research. I think they're going to continue declining, and there goes the VIX off to the races.
Yeah,
I
there's
still,
very, very smart people. And I'm not talking about CNBC. I mean, it's saying that the Fed is, really in trouble because what
Yeah.
they're doing, I mean, they're like exacerbating inflation. They need to be doing the 0.75s or,
yeah,
and that's just an overall opinion from some very, very smart, experienced, big money people.
well, if
So
I'm going to look,
I would be selling rallies like you had yesterday, which you did. You caught the upside, which is brilliant, but now the trend continues.
yeah, I'm going to look for, let's see what we have in terms of gains today. Just kind of go through and, so this is a Chinese ETF. And let's see, I bet there's a selling opportunity here. So let's go to the 4-hour chart. Looks like there's, all right, so this is where I would look to sell. 1835. ATR trailing stop. 4-hour. This is where I would look to buy puts. So let's put this on the list, and I'm going to create a new watch list. And because all the ones we chose, they've already made their moves to the downside, so there may not be a lot left. Let's call this midday. And going back to this watch list here. Just to our midday list. And if I went to a 5-minute chart, looks like the $14 put is where the open interest is. That's one that I could buy and actually swing because it's not very expensive. It's 40 cents. So even if I completely got wiped out on that trade, I would still have a 5% gain for the day. But it's a May 20 expiration. So could swing this actually. And I don't typically swing my trades, but that would be an interesting position to hold. I'm going to go back to Apple though, just briefly. I'm going to keep my eye on this because I think that, again, I think there's going to be an opportunity here to trade Apple to the upside and then back to the downside. And what else do we have? Twitter. I'm going to go to a daily chart so we can see what's happening with these. ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips look like it might be a nice trade opportunity, even though they had nice earnings. It tells me that they're hitting key resistance level here. So this ATR trailing stop, and you had a previous high, so this could be a double top. Let me mark this. Daily.
Hey, Richard, do you mind watching Devon? I mean, if you want to trade stuff the upside, energy's got a really good, strong story behind it.
Yeah, I understand. And I had a couple of energy stocks on my list. I was not looking at Devon only because I didn't want to pay the premium because of earnings and the implied volatility. So if I was to trade Devon, I would probably certainly consider it to the upside. I'd be looking to trade it to the upside. Looks like here off of this support level. Let's take a look here. So that's a consideration. I'm looking for things that have really climbed. So look at Lyft. Lyft is trying to, oh, you know, there was Uber on my list as well. There were a couple of things on my list, and I should have looked at that in the morning. So I had a list for Thursday that I that didn't make the final cut. But all of these are red. CrowdStrike was one. Zscaler, Facebook, Square. I had chosen, you know, I tried to pick what well, again, I'm looking at Apple, and Apple is signaling reversal. So we've got this now inverted hammer. So I'm going to trade. I know that the market sentiment is to the downside, but I'm going to trade this Apple. I'm going to trade Apple back to the upside today. We're getting close to the 11 o'clock hour, and I believe the market's going to turn back to the upside. So you could have almost chosen anything. Plug would have been ideal. So I looked at a $23.50 put for Plug, and I was going to buy that on the open because the weekly ATR was met at 24.23, and that would have been like just a monster trade because I would have bought in the money because it's cheap, right? I mean, it's a $21 stock. I looked at ADM to the upside also, and it looks like that might not be a bad choice. CCJ, Ford was bearish. But I am gonna, I think, trade Apple, Dave. I'm gonna wait for that. I'm gonna wait for that turn on Apple. and then I'm going to buy to the upside and trade it up to the upside and then back down again is my thought here. But we're at 10:30, so I'm going to take a break, and I will probably join Dr. A's room at 11 o'clock, so I don't anticipate making any moves before that. I do see on the VIX, look like we've gotten to a point where the VIX is now starting to show some weakness. And it's 25.28. Let's see where that is. Looks like it's got support here. So yeah, the VIX is going to continue moving up. So I probably am not going to do anything until around 11 o'clock, thereabouts.
Great job,
By
Richard.
then, yeah, thanks. And by then I will have figured out what I'm going to do. But I'm going to trade to the upside because I think the downside move is going to be over soon, at least temporarily.
Right.
Then I think we'll move back to the upside, and then probably around the afternoon, we're going to head back down. So I'm going to trade to the upside and then trade it back down. And hopefully I only use 3 trades today and I can do really well. So we'll see.
Okay, great.
Let's look at that AMD just to make myself mad. Look at that. However,
You made money, Richard. Come
yes,
on.
sir. No, I'm just kidding. I don't look back, but I think it's interesting because one thing that most people don't get is when you have profit and you have good profit, you met your target, take it, because we can't really predict the market. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. That is a Gurula motto, and I tell you, I live by it. So I'm all about protecting my capital, and it's all about being disciplined. And that's what we are trying to get people to understand, to teach. 2 things, discipline and patience. With those 2 things, you can be successful as a trader.
And money goes where it's treated best.
It indeed does. And that's Gurula. So thank you so much, David, for the time this morning. And we will see you tomorrow morning.
Okay. Bye, Richard.
All righty. Bye-bye.